Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. I wanted to do a video lesson. I just posted this on scienceoffantasyfootball.com, the actual figures. I'm not sure if it depends on my enthusiasm here, but I wanted to at least say some things about this data, this new data stream. Dennis and I hit this in our podcast episode 163. I have the video of that where Dennis gives his takes on this material as well. Some of it, not all of it. We can't cover everything, but anyway, it is what it is. This is my attempt to explore this data metrics, these future predictions that Vegas has out there. I'm sure you can find various sites, sports books and whatnot. You can make bets and whatnot. I'm not that point yet where I'm comfortable doing this. This is just another beta test, but that's the way the scientific method directs us, is to have a hypothesis and study it. So my hypothesis then is that Vegas seasonal predictions are better, and see in quotes what that means, better than the public ADP in the platforms that I draft on. So notice I didn't define better, because I could say 10% better, 20%. I don't even know enough to really define that hypothesis. And sometimes in science, the hypothesis you throw out is very general and it's not very specific, and it's just an opportunity to explore. So I feel like this is kind of a squishy hypothesis here, because I have no clue. But I think it will be very clear if Vegas's future predictions are not up to speed with public ADP for fantasy football. So I guess in that sense, knocking down that hypothesis would really give us a lot information versus, saying that it is better and leaving the squishiness on what that definition of better is. I want to think that I'm doing this next year and I'll have this data to redefine what I'm testing at this point here. This is mid-July future passing yards, touchdowns, etc., rushing touchdowns for various positions. And we'll see what's going on. See, all these figures are hardwired or available for you to look at as well and make your own conclusions, right? Do your own research. That's what I'm trying to do, is promote the scientific method here in fantasy football. And so this is just my process, things that I do and like to do. Okay, so his first two figures here are players, QB, and have V passing yards. That's Vegas future passing yards, Vegas passing touchdowns, V/B rushing yards, V/V rushing touchdowns. The /B means Bush. That's me. Some of these props don't exist, or I couldn't find them, so I kind of used 2023 as a way to at least put something down for us to look at. So you can see right away that it's a little bit squishy. The passing yards and passing TDs are pretty much there, but the rushing for the quarterbacks is the issue here. And let's see here. I'm turning down my phone. It's making all sorts of noise here. Okay. And so then I calculated fantasy points that would result for points per touchdown, rushing and passing yards, and there's the points predicted using these methods. And then I scaled all the quarterbacks looked at, 0 to 100. And then I tried to break apart my tiers. So Josh Allen, number one, and certainly the key to his success compared to, say, Patrick Mahomes is rushing touchdowns. And that's the whole point, and that's what makes him valuable, and what makes him, potentially the first choice this year, at least what Vegas thinks if you squish it all together. Hurts and Mahomes in the second tier, interchangeable. Then we have Jackson, Prescott, Love, Stroud. And right away, the alarm bell should ring on Prescott, Love. They're both going, at least the latest redraft ADPs, not best ball now. I'm leaving best ball. It's like the 8th or 9th round, whereas Stroud and Jackson are certainly above that. So if you fall on this, you would say Prescott and Love are really good choices for value, as you can get them late, and Vegas would predict they're as good as Jackson, Stroud. Okay. And then you're saying, well, they're not as good as Hurts, Mahomes. Right. But you're going to pay for those. And I do see the gap there on things. I got it. I got that. But that's, what we got. Then we drop again. Lawrence, Purdy, Richardson, Murray, and then Burrow, Herbert, and Goff. And so you can go through and look at things. For instance, Anthony Richardson, they don't think he can pass. They think he can rush. So his value is propped up on the rushing. Whereas somebody like Mahomes, it's all about that pass. So depending on how you weigh those differences there. Quarterbacks are really interesting because you have that, and they're almost like running backs. You have that extra dimension there, and that anytime you have extra dimension, that makes it a little bit trickier in dealing with it. Okay, and then here's the deeper quarterbacks. Again, if you play Superflex or looking for a QB2 type, I think we're definitely in that range in here. You can take a look and see what you think. I think Daniel Jones is interesting, way down, but boy, they love his rushing yards, don't they? Russell Wilson, they're giving him a nice bit of rushing yards as Deshaun Watson. Whereas Cousins, Rodgers, Tua is all about that pass, right? All about that pass. So again, weighing Vegas's opinions here, if you think things are wrong or right, and that's something that we'll know more after the season, since I'm now including these metrics for our study, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere, so this is that year. Okay, next thing I did, and Dennis and I went over some of this, is I looked at 2023 passing yards if all quarterbacks studied played 17 games. So I didn't want injury to be an issue, so I took weekly yards multiplied by 17. So it's not real. The data in, for Anthony Richardson, etc., Cousins didn't actually happen. but I scaled it up like if they were healthy and played. And then Vegas passing yards next to it. I did the old box and whisker and realized that, and I've talked about this in some previous lessons, but the box and whisker is a way to look at the data from a top-down view. And again, what I've found is that is missing in your typical fantasy football sites. Just doesn't exist, right? It's in the room, but they never touch it. They don't go top down really a lot. Maybe team level, but this is even beyond. This is league level, and I think it's important to break it down, to deconstruct, right? It's just the way that I was trained as a biologist. You figure out a system and you break it down, right? If you didn't know how the car worked, and I've given this example, give it to my students over the years, how would you figure out what's important? Well, you'd start removing pieces, right? So you take the windshield wipers off. Does that do anything? Well, in a rainstorm, it'd make it harder to drive, but the car can still move, right? So that's not important. You take the tires off. A car can still roll on its rims, not very efficiently, so you can make some distinctions there. So you see what I'm saying. Eventually you take the engine out, that doesn't work. And then that kind of thing. You take the radiator out, the engine can work and the car can roll for a while, then it overheats and stops. But it can still work, so that informs you, right? That deconstruction informs you about the whole process. And so that's why I use box and whisker a lot. It's a trick for me to visualize things, to think about questions more, okay? And that is completely absent out there in the world. And you're saying, well, is that bad? Look, what the fantasy football sites are is what has been selected for in the environment. Okay, as about that, it exists because that's what the public, in quotes, wants, right? That's why I don't have, thousands of viewers. Dennis and I don't. Okay, we'd love to be out there, but we probably never will. And I got that. You got to be at peace if you are a creator. You got to be at peace. I mean, if you're not following what everybody else is doing, the reason everybody else is following is because that's what the public is demanding. My argument is they don't know what they don't know, and they're missing out. And that's why I started all this, is as a biology professor trying to help kids. I call them kids. If you're 64, 65, to me you're all damn kids. So this is a way that I do it. You're following my process, and I'll never be on the TV or whatever. It's just not going to happen. The public doesn't want it. They're bored. Just give me the stuff now, and I'll worry about it later, right? I'll take the fire. Don't tell me how to chop the wood, right? I'm bored. I don't care, right? You chop the wood. You just give me the goodies, right? You go make the food and serve me, right? Here we are now. Entertain us. I got it. That's the nature of the beast here. Old cranky Dr. Bush or old cranky Professor Bush. Okay. So anyway, part of the reason I do this is because I never done it before, and I just wanted to see what Vegas is thinking and seeing. And if you listen to the podcast video, episode 163, I don't quite know what this means. Dennis takes a crack at it, but at the end of the day, we really not 100% sure what this is telling us here. and how Vegas, because we don't set the odds for the sports books, right? I would love to follow those folks around and talk to them, but I understand that's proprietary data, and I'll never get to do that. So here I am on the outside of the black box, tweaking, doing the scientific method, trying to break what I can, but I realize that the black box exists, and I may not ever quite know what's in there, right? It's like, here, eat this soup. Well, what's in it? I can't tell you. You like it or you don't. So reality is much broader from the floor to ceiling than Vegas wants to present. I think the boxes are just on top of each other, which is, I thought, I didn't know how it's going to, it wasn't like, oh, this is how it's going to be, because I have nothing to compare to. I had no reference class forecast, okay, that I knew of, okay. I don't think anybody does. Now, if you guys do your own research, I'm presenting you with something for us to start our process and investigate. Again, we're on the clock with our hypothesis. We won't have some of this data. It's not instant data, folks. More my editorial. But anyway, there that is, which is interesting. But then look at how Vegas is doing the touchdowns versus reality. Reality's real, from 2 to 36 touchdowns. Vegas is in that, but the box is higher. 22 touchdowns is kind of the median there. And you wonder, is Vegas trying to emphasize the over, the under to try to get bets? Remember, they're trying to balance the books to get lots of action because they take a rake, right? So, again, I'd love to talk to any of the odds makers, and but again, I'd have to pay them money because it's like they don't want to tell me the secret stuff. But I do noted that the passing and the touchdowns are quite different on how Vegas is spinning its data here. So if I was a futures bettor, what would I do with this? Imagine it was reversed. I've been thinking about this. I was mowing my yard thinking, and you're saying, is that what you do all day? I said, look, folks, I can't help it. I'm eat up with the questions in my head. That's why I am a PhD. That's things I can't leave be. I can't be satisfied. That's just the way it's always been. I don't like that. I want to understand why, and as much as I can, with the caveat that the black box is the black box. So if it was reversed, if Vegas was giving us 2 or 36, would that be good for them or not? I want to think, given a lot of choices and extreme choices, would anybody take an over of 36? They would almost for sure stumble upon and take the under, because that's such a rarity. It only happened to one player last year, I think. Let's see if I don't know if I've got that data. But anyway, yeah, so what was that? 36. I don't know who this player is, right? The next one was 32. So if I was presented that prop, it would seem to me that's a no-brainer for an under. And if I'm Vegas, it's like, man, that's a losing prop there. So I think they understand reality, but they squish it in to make it a little bit more tricky. So now, is 31, is that something you could, oh, hell no, that's not going to happen. Well, we had a 36, we had a 31, we had a 32, we had a 29, we had a 27. So it's not as a sure thing. It seems to be pretty interesting. It depends on what, I'm assuming that 31 is what, the best players are. I don't know if did I do that? They did it in terms of total rushing, passing 31. So they're predicting Mahomes at 31. Anybody else? So Vegas says Mahomes is at 31. Is that a good bet or not? You know, that this data would say that's an extreme, but Mahomes, they're predicting, is going to be extreme, right? They're predicting 4,300 yards. So he's going to be doing 200 something more yards than anybody else. And you're thinking, does he have time to get hit above 31? Very intriguing. In other words, it almost like they're adding a little frosting to it and trying to get you to go that route. So I don't know the end of it. I think after the fact, I'll have a little bit more clarity. We need probably about 3 or 4 years of data. And you're saying years? Yeah, that's how it is, folks. Okay. And by the way, another editorial. I don't know. It's Saturday morning, 7:27. I'm feeling like a professor and need to add my editorial. If the site you're paying money for hadn't changed things, I'm not talking about new flippy metrics that you're like, well, is this different than the other metrics you were giving me last year? See, they're not going to tell you that. You have to do principal component analysis, and there's some other stats to look. In other words, if you have a metric and it's telling you the same thing as another metric, why are you producing two metrics that are saying the same thing? And that's what Dennis and I are testing this year, our 5 weekly metrics. And I don't, if I can save myself some time and throw one out because another one's superior, that's what I need to do. But you've got to do the work. In other words, if your site's the same old, seems to me they're not pushing things. I mean, to me, I'm in another world if I'm not pushing things, folks. So every year or two, I'm going to be pushing it, tweak it. I just can't stand it. Okay. When I make gumbo, I got to add a little, hey, I'm going to throw a little extra this batch. It kind of irritates my family a little bit, but I got to do it. I got to push it. This is pretty good. I like a little bit of smoky flavor. Well, let me add a little liquid smoke here to the gumbo or things like that. I'm always tweaking the recipe. That's just the scientist in me. RBs. Notice I really wasn't overly clear because you just got my clarity. Okay, that's the best I could do for now. And you can look at the Vegas yards and touchdowns if you're curious about things. Mostert and A-Chain, I guess, in Miami. Vegas says they're the same animal. So that's a true 50-50 split. Look at Harris down there way away from Warren. So they say it's not a split, even though maybe ADP, at least in best ball, had them both going pretty close. That kind of thing. Derrick Henry, number 2, folks. He's not going as number 2. So that's very intriguing as well. And so you're wondering, because look, they got him 10.5 touchdowns. Look at Bijan, 6. They think Henry's got a good shot at getting 5-6 more seasonal touchdowns than Bijan. If you don't believe that, then the Henry, if you believe Bijan's going to do more, then there you go. Vegas says bet the over. So you have an opportunity here. But here's the tier. Lets you think about this. Like I said, since I've never used this before, it'd be goofy for me to, write in blood. Yep, this is exactly how it is, right? No, I'm just showing you where it's at right now based on what Vegas was giving us mid-July. I don't know. Okay, these are the tiers. If it helps you with clarity of the running backs, that's great. Hope it does. Here's some more deeper running backs. Surprised me, Kamara is way down here. That was a surprise. Stevenson and Swift, I really was trying to draft a lot of them. And Vegas has concerns about those. So I've got some, what I thought was strong opinions based on our metrics, and now we'll have Vegas saying things. So it's going to be real curious to see the outcome, folks, of Public's ADP, our 5 metrics and their average, and Vegas. I look forward to next February when I start unraveling this. I'm excited to do this test for the season here. It's very intriguing, folks, very intriguing. But anyway, I think Vegas is trying to make some points and comments, and it's very intriguing. Here is the rushing yards. Again, Vegas is internal. Vegas, the box, the 50% population is below reality a little bit. And again, if you flipped it, if Vegas was saying 1450, everybody would be taking the under, right? Whereas if they'll give you 1150, and I don't know what, is that CMC? Yeah. So CMC 1150, is that worth your time or not? They've set that to try to entice some people to take an over. I think a lot of people, if they're concerned, will take the under, that kind of thing. Something I see, the bottom 450 props versus reality 411, there's not a lot of gap there, folks. It almost looks like 450 should be pointing to the over a little bit. So I don't know all the 450 players. Oh, that's Blake Corum and Marshall. So the 2 rookies. Man, I could see a lot of variation there. But 450, it does seem intriguing to me, that kind of thing. So I'm going to leave it there. Move on. Here's the touchdown again. If somebody gave you 18 touchdowns, you'd be like, oh, I'll take the under. But if they give you 10.5, you're thinking, that's not a sure shot. That's what I think Vegas is contracting. Because the only way I think about this, if I reversed it, that they're purposely inside reality to try to increase the betting line and the amount of people betting here and enticing you with overs and unders, right? 2.5, you're thinking, that's interesting. That seems like a for sure over, but is it a for sure over? I don't know who, is that the rookies again? Trey Benson is a rookie or is there. So it looks like some of the lowest they're offering you. It's not like they're doing Ezekiel at 2.5, right? Everybody take the over. Right? Gus Edwards. You see, they're not doing that. Javonte Williams, 3.5 seems intriguing. So I think, is this a quarterback? I may have left this in. My bad if I did. I forgot. I lose track of everybody here. So I think this is an opportunity to show you what Vegas is thinking here. Tight ends. Laporta, Kelsey, it's all about which one's number 1. They're about the same. Kelsey a little less touchdown, Laporta a little more, but Kelsey a little bit more yards because he's on a passing thing. That, they're trying to entice you with the Kelsey. And I think Dennis talked about that in our podcast. I think because he's a Kansas City guy, but he read me, I think, how many yards Kelsey's racked up. This seems almost, enticingly for the over. That I'm curious to see how he will do this. But anyway, what I found interesting, I do like Mark Andrews, and he's about the 5th tight end, and yet he's 3rd by Vegas, and there's a big gap there, folks. So he seems intriguing for a value here, and you could look at some of the other ones and see if anything makes sense to you or not there. Again, I thought this was a little intriguing that 400 yards for a tight end last year, the lowest was 411. It almost screams the over, but let's see, who are they giving 400 to? Hunter Henry is the only one, 400. 425, Juwan Johnson. Those seem a little tricky here. You know, so these down here at the bottoms are the one that you got 500, 400, somewhere in there. They're trying to sprinkle in some yardage there. And Komet and Chiggy, 2.5. That seems a little, but again, I'm probably, since I'm not a Vegas bettor, I'm probably getting tricked. But I'm curious to see how that goes. Touchdowns, I see Vegas has upped it a little bit over reality. So are they having to do that to try to encourage the overs? In other words, in their experience, do tight ends require this kind of line setting to get people salivating over the overs or the unders? I don't know that, but I notice I had with each position about the same questions. There's no guarantee we'll have the answer next year, but maybe we'll have another year of this kind of metric to think about. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Lamb, pretty much almost the same player, okay? And the next, Chase Brown, A.J. Brown, Jefferson, pretty much the same player. Brown is, I think, the lowest ADP of all those, so he might be of interest. I've been taking him. Mike Evans, a little bit higher than you might think. Some of these other ones might be surprising to you here. Again, I can't say, oh yeah, this means for sure Olave's going to be, a high WR2. I don't know how good Vegas is. Again, we're just starting this journey here. Some more, and notice the tiers are really expanding, folks, and that's kind of interesting. In other words, there's a whole bunch. Vegas says these guys are all the same right in here. Okay? But it gets a little choppy in here towards the bottom, which is intriguing as well. Yards are, again, internal, but kind of balanced. Look at the under, 400. So is that the rookies? They're giving us 400? Yep. Odell Beckham, they're trying to entice you. Roman Wilson, 425. They're the lowest props. Leggett at 500. That may be really tasty if you believe that Mahomes is going to be the passing leader. Then maybe that is a good trick to play here. Touchdowns. Look at this for wide receiver. Oh my God, it is so thin. Again, it looks to me this. And I started thinking about this. Dennis and I talked. Does this mean that in Vegas's experience, a lot of people, a lot more bet the wide receiver touchdowns versus the tight ends? So Vegas has to skew their props differently to get more betting. So I don't know if that means it's going to be less accurate. In other words, it's skewed to getting betting, not skewed to reality as much. In other words, is this less real? I don't know. Again, lots of questions here. I'm not sure I have the answers, folks. Let's see. I do have these if you're just curious. I actually did bar grams of the box The top is the ceiling, the floor, the range, the distance between the two, between 2023 and Vegas. And so this is the complete top, and this is the box top. Okay, so if you go here, this is the complete. 13 to 0 is the complete, and that would be 13 would be the range. And for here, 9.5 and 2.5 and 7 would be the range. And the box would be 5.5, 4.5. This will be 7 and 3, 4 and 1. Big difference. So I've just marked that data just for my knowledge, just for me to see it in a different way. I like to throw visual metrics to allow us to see the data differently. Again, if you're paying some folks for your data, visual, in my experience of 30 years being a university professor, kids, call you kids, love the visual. They love to look at the picture. Okay. Pictures tell stories. We are, as humans, built on storytelling, making, and understanding. And realize, though, that without the metrics, it could be fiction, your story. So I try to show you the metrics, but then spin the story in the context of the metrics. To me, that's how it's got to be done. Frankly, I don't see that. I see a lot of opinions, and they're trying to make a story up. They'll cherry pick something out there and claim that's part of the story. They have no clue, folks. Come on. Come on, folks. Quit paying money for that crap. Anyway, that's me preaching. Okay, Dr. Bush preaching. So I've got this for all the metrics. I'm not going to go through all of it here, but it's there for you to ponder and figure out. And again, this is the kind of data that I don't even know how to use all of it yet. Okay, but you're getting to see the process in something brand new. Okay. And I would doubt any of the sites ever would dare, because remember, if they show you, we don't know everything, we have no clue, but we're going to investigate. That would be honest, but people paying money, they want the answers now. They don't want to wait 3 or 4 years in beta testing. So that's our advantage, is we're building, though, right? We're building that house of brick. Versus our competitors are going to stay with straw or sticks. Hey, nursery rhymes, that visual story I just told you. So when the winds of victory blow, Dennis and I hope that our houses, our data houses that we're building now, 5, 6 years, they're still standing and even stronger still. At least I hope so. Okay, so Dennis, that story was for you. Okay, going to the expo. If you get a chance, come and find me. I'm probably not what you think I am, but that's cool. I may have my Skeletor hat on. Got the old gray beard. Not much hair on top, but I'll probably wearing a baseball cap with Skeletor. I'm a sci-fi fan, so come find me. See what you think. Feel free to interrupt. Hey, we all love our fans out there in the real world. Okay, good luck. I'm posting this to the hard copy of all this. And again, I don't have all the answers on this stuff at all, not even close. But you get to see the ground floor, folks. Okay, thanks for listening. 39 minutes. I can run my mouth, I know. Okay, come back. Process, science of fantasy football. Are we going to have fun this 2024 season or what? Come to the expo. We're all having a great time.